proclamation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Litchfield.
Almighty God, we gather this evening hour to conduct the business of the city. We offer our prayer for our mayor, for the president, for the members of the city council, and for all in authority. Grant unto them a sense of justice, strength, and wisdom as they perform their duty on behalf of all thy people. We commend this city, this county, this station, and thy people to thy merciful care and understanding. Remember those who lie upon a bed of affliction. Comfort those who mourn. In the name of the one who is Lord of life, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me state for the record that the mayor and some of the other council and staff are at another meeting. So, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Nicholas? Here. Mr. Les?
Here.
Ms. Crary?
Here.
President Ricks?
Here. We have a quorum. I'll ask for the approval of the minutes of the 18th meeting of September the 12th. Do I have a motion?
You do. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We'll pause for a minute. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Did you hear who it is?
Call the roll
Yes. On the minutes.
on the minutes. I'm sorry. Who made the motion?
I did.
This query.
And who second?
Mr. Les?
Okay. Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Ricks?
Yes. At this time, I'll call for the report of the mayor and city council. Ms. Nicholas?
Thank you. On Friday, September the 15th, along with some of my council colleagues, I attended the 50th anniversary Laurel Senior Friendship Club dinner. That was well attended and very nice. Yesterday, I attended the Riverfest with my council colleagues. It was a wonderful event, lots of food and families and friendly atmosphere. The third thing I'd like to talk about is the litter in the city. I'd like to welcome Cheryl Dreyer, who came tonight. Thank you for coming. She had brought up at our last City in the Park at the Armory last week about litter. I've been picking up litter for a while now. When I see that just in picking it up, it seems to be a problem throughout the city. So I'll just ask that you continue to watch the city website, and also I'll be making some postings on my Facebook page with further information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Les?
Thank you, Mr. President. Saturday, September 24th, I attended the Pilati High School annual crab feast. This is their biggest fundraiser. The sold-out event brings many alumni and back, and several traveled from Ohio to attend. Saturday, September 24th, another great Cops on the Roof event. Our thanks to the men and women of our police department who have events throughout the year to support Special Olympics, and many thanks to their sponsors, especially Dunkin' Donuts, and the public who participated and donated. And of course, Riverfest was a good day for Riverfest, a little cool, but the old cars were a good addition. That concludes my report.
Thank you. You probably rode in a lot of those cars.
Well, I think that Jay Donaldson has it wrong. I don't think you go 3,000 miles in a flathead engine to change the oil. He had it on the web when I was going to respond. I said somebody will respond. As I remember, it's about 1,500 miles with those flatheads. Didn't he have the ambulance there with the flathead? I think he did.
Yes.
And he wanted to know, when does he change the oil and what does he use in it? So it was a good addition.
Thank you, Mr. Les.
And I did not ride in any of those cars, by the way.
I'm talking about when you were a kid. All right, Ms. Crary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everybody that it's gotten a lot darker in the morning and also in the evening, and please be careful of people that are walking, kids and adults, whether they're in the crosswalk or not. congratulations to the Board of Trade. I think the River Fest was one of its best attended. And with the Reverend's permission, I would just like to thank God for Mr. Craven on the Washington Redskins.
Thank you. I'd like to also recognize Mr. Dreyer and the rest of the people from the Montgomery Street area for doing all the cleanup the other day. It certainly is appreciated for you doing those types of things, and we look forward to seeing you someday in the future to be able to, respond accordingly with some kind of citation for a good job and a great city. Thank you very much. Also like to welcome to the city of Laurel 2 new residents, Josh and James Cole, who have just purchased a house on Carroll Avenue, and who took the time to clean up 6th Street while they were working on parts of 6th Street and Laurel Avenue. And Josh and James took it upon themselves to clean up the sidewalk and the edging and that sort of thing. So we really, on behalf of the city, we really appreciate their efforts, and it looks a heck of a lot better than it did before. With that, I'll open the general public hearing at 7:07. Is there anyone wishing to speak in the general public hearing about anything whatsoever? Look forward. There's a button on the front of the microphone which will turn it to green. I hope. Press that. Is it on?
It is. It's green.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Name and address for the record, please.
All right. My name is Cheryl Dyer. I live at 310 4th Street in Laurel, Maryland, and I am proud to live here. It's a wonderful town, and I feel a little bit like I shouldn't be bringing up something so small as litter, because there's so many big issues that concern the world, but because we just had wonderful Riverfest, and I heard folks talking with you, Mr. Ricks, about the abandoned houses, and because at Mayor in the Park, I talked with Ms. Nichols about the litter problem, and because my concern was about mosquitoes, and they're all kind of related. They seem to be about beautification, but they're actually about health and safety, and I've been thinking since we talked at the cleanup, what could we do to motivate people to want to take care of their own properties and also spread that momentum throughout the city. And it's too late now for the mosquitoes for this year, but I thought we've got time to plan for next spring, maybe a block-by-block group of folks who could go door-to-door with information. I'll have to ask you about how we get something like that printed, but with an offer to help people inspect their yards. And I know I talked with, I forgot his name, but the guy that's the head of Parks, Public Works, about having a crew of people in a friendly fashion, not intimidating people or horning in, but going and asking if they would like us to come through their yard and help them identify places where mosquitoes have habitat. And I don't know, if there are people who need yard work done, maybe we could help them with it. Something to I don't know, instigate a little property pride with a helping hand. So just something to think about, and come next spring, maybe we'll have a crew of people that are willing to head it in a block-by-block fashion. So my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Well, every effort that the citizens make is a positive effort to get that done. You and I talked about some of the legislation that we were proposing. Resolution number 1880, which we'll introduce tonight into the record, is a move toward that. And there's other legislation that's coming up in the future that we're continuing to work on and strengthen to make sure that efforts like yours will be something that we can live with for a long, long time.
I just had another thought. When I walk my dog, I have seen some beautifully kept apartment complexes, and I know that the golden shovel generally goes to individual homeowners, but could we recognize apartment complexes that do a tremendous job of their landscaping and their groundskeeping, you just don't see a piece of litter on these ones that I could email you their addresses, but is there a way to recognize a group like that? 'Cause
Nominate them.
Okay, I
Get
mean,
us the nomination.
can we do it even though it's not summer anymore?
Sure.
Okay, all right,
It
thank you.
looks good.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:11. We'll move on to item number 8, and this is the opening public hearing, and I'll read item, it's the second public hearing with the possible action on ordinance number 1877, text amendment number 242, and an ordinance amending the Laurel City Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Article 1, Zoning, to amend Division 1 in general, and Division 3, the City Planning Commission, Division 4, Board of Appeals, Division 5, Zoning Districts, Division 6, Parking and Loading Facilities, Division 7, Sign and Advertising Structures, Division 9, Exceptions and Supplements to the Zone Regulations, to add Section 20-20.9, Small Wind Energy Systems, Division 13, Historic District Commission, to add in Section 20-25.9, Prevention and Demolition of Neglect, and repealing its entirety the Division of 16, Community Design Standards, amending Laurel City Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, to add Appendix D, Parking Modification Zone, and providing for an effective date. This is the second public hearing with a possible action. We have a court reporter this evening, Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President. Text amendment application number 242 was filed on July 1st, 2016 by the Mayor and City Council of Laurel to amend Laurel City Code Chapter 20 Land Development and Subdivision Regulations. On July the 21st, 2016, the proposed ordinance was sent to the Maryland Department of Planning for comment. No response was received. File contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application in public hearing was advertised as required by law in the September 8, 2016 edition of the Prince George's Sentinel. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and City Council dated September 14th, 2016 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on September 13th, 2016, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. Mr. Wilson made a motion to recommend approval of text amendment number 242, ordinance number 1877, to include changes to the draft ordinance made at the Mayor and City Council hearing of Monday, September the 12th, 2016, to not delete Section 20-28.1, Division 16, Community Design Standards of the Laurel City Code in its entirety, but to only delete the following sections. Section 20-28.3, Community Design Review Committee, Section 20-28.5, Procedures, Section 20-28.6, Expedited Review Process, Section 20-28.9, Incentives for Better Design Solutions, and Section 20-28.10, Overlapping Jurisdictions. Mr. Kish second, Mr. Wilson's motion, Mr. Welford voted yes, and Chairwoman Bettman cast the final vote of yes. That concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. I'll open the public hearing at 7:15. Is there anyone wishing to testify on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:15. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
move for the approval of ordinance number 1877. Text amendment number 242 is read into the record.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Crary. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Ricks?
Yes. Item number 9 is the second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1878. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel amending the code of the City of Laurel, Chapter 11, Planning and Development, Section 11-4, adoption of the master plan to reflect the recent adoption of the new master plan of the city of Laurel. I read this into the record for the second reading. I'll open the public hearing at 7:16. Mr. Brock.
Mr. President, the purpose of this ordinance is to amend the city code to add City Ordinance 1873, which is the recently adopted master plan.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this topic? Seeing no one at all, I'll close the public hearing and have it held at 7:16. Pleasure of the council.
Mr. President, I just want to note that this is ordinance number 1878, is that correct? Mr. Brown?
That is correct.
Yeah, you said 3.
I'm sorry.
What'd I say?
No, it's 1878.
That's
It's
great, it's 1878, I just want to make sure.
1873 in the body. That's what he was referring to.
That's, I understand that.
Okay. Pleasure of the council.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of ordinance number 1878.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas? President Rex?
Yes. Move on to item number 10. This is the second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1879. An ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel amending the code of the city of Laurel, or chapter 8, licenses, permits, and business regulations to amend section 8-6 miscellaneous license fees and to repeal schedule A, license fees scheduled, and B, permit fee schedule, for the purpose of removing such fees from the city code and amending sections 8-21, 8-25, and 8-55 to reflect the change. It's been read into the record for the second time. Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President. The purpose of this ordinance is to delete the license fee schedule, which is currently contained in the code, and allows the mayor to set the fees on an annual basis.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'll open the public hearing at 7:18 on this topic. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close it at 7:18 and a half. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we approve ordinance number 1879 as read into the record.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms.
It's
Nichols.
obnoxious,
Madam
they're
Clerk?
Changing it to nuisance.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
President Rex?
Yes.
Division 2.
Item number 11. This is the second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1880. An ordinance amending the city code, Article 7, Property Standards, Chapter 18, Buildings and Building Regulations, Division 1, Storage and Unregistered, Inoperable, Dismantled, Partially Dismantled, and Wrecked Motor Vehicles and Trailers, Snow and Ice Removal, and Division 2, Accumulations of Noxious Conditions, etc., and providing for an effective date. I've read this into the record for the second reading. Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President. The purpose of this amendment is to add regulations in order to enforce no parking in drive aisles on private property, which has become a nuisance. Oh, okay.
Mr. President, it's also come to my attention today, Mr. Brock and Ms. Ruff conferred on this. There are two very small changes in the wording which are not substantive, but I would just appreciate it if the council would just vote to amend the ordinance to reflect those small changes. On page 1, there is an additional whereas that was added that you should have. The third whereas now says, whereas the mayor and city council desire to adopt the recommended amendments, all right, which is a non-substantive change. And then on the second to last page, in the be it further enacted and ordained paragraph at the bottom there, it says Division 2, accumulations and nuisance conditions, etc., is amended to change the name of the division. That's where we changed the word from obnoxious to nuisance. These are non-substantive changes. I would just ask that somebody make a motion to add them to the ordinance, vote on that, and then you can vote to adopt.
Can we not do a friendly amendment as noted?
I'd rather just have a separate vote,
Okay, thank
just
you.
to be careful.
Okay, so we'll have a public hearing on this item as it's been read into the record by Mr. Shea. It's 7:21. I'll open the public hearing at that time. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this topic? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Council, as you've noted from Mr. Shea's statement, I'd like to have a motion to amend first and then a motion to grant.
Mr. President, I move that we amend ordinance number 1880 as presented by our city solicitor, John Shea.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Creary. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Rex?
Yes. Now I'll take a motion to adopt.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt ordinance number 1880 as amended.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Creary. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Rex?
Yes. This is part of what I was telling you that's coming forward. I'd be more than happy to give you a copy of it if you'd like to have it. Let's move on to item number 12. This is second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1881, an ordinance to amend the operating budget of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland for the fiscal year of July the 1st of 2015 through June the 30th of 2016. Ms. Saylor.
Mr. President, we discussed this at the September work session. There is now a September 22nd version of the ordinance. The change being that the additional pension contribution is actually coming from admissions and amusement tax and not from red light cameras. That was a mistake in the wording on the first or the second whereas. Additionally, rather than an addition of funds to the public safety reserve, $250,000 of admissions and amusement revenue, unanticipated revenue, will be used to make an operating transfer to the Community Redevelopment Authority. So the overall change to the ordinance, change to the budget is an addition of $2,559,023.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and take a motion.
Mr.
Wait,
President.
I gotta have a public hearing. It's 7:24 and I open the public hearing. Is anyone wishing to speak on this topic?
Mr. President.
I'm sorry.
As with Mr. Brock's last ordinance, if we could take a motion to accept the September 22nd version, since there were changes since the introduction.
So we want a motion to amend?
Yes, sir.
And then a motion to,
Yes, sir.
okay. So we're opening a public hearing at 7:24. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close it at 7:24 and a half. I'll take a motion to amend, and then I'll take a motion to grant.
Mr. President, I move for the amendment of ordinance number 1881 as presented by Ms. Saylor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
President Rex?
Yes, and now I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of ordinance number 1881 as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
President Rex?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Saylor. This is the second public hearing with possible action on Charter Resolution number 170, a charter resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel amending Article 400, administration of the Charter of the City of Laurel, Maryland, to reflect the reorganization of the city by amending Section 465, Director of the Department of Development and Management, and adding Section 466, Director of the Department of the Fire Marshal, and Permit Services to reflect the division of the Department of Planning and Zoning into the Department of Economic and Community Development and the Department of the Fire Marshal and Permit Services. I've read this into the record for the second time. I'll ask for Mr. Brock.
Mr. President, the purpose of this resolution is to amend the charter to change the name of the Department of Development Management to the Department of Economic and Community Development, and secondly, to create the Department of Fire Marshal and Permit Services.
Thank you. Open the public hearing at 7:26. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close it at 7:26 and a half. What's the pleasure of the council? What?
I'm sorry, what?
We have the three. It's that, the four of us are, is that enough?
Yeah, it doesn't take a supermajority. But you need 4 votes.
Do we need to have 3 hearings for a
No.
charter amendment, John? I just want to make sure. But we do need 4 votes.
You need 4 votes.
All right.
Yeah, but we need 3 hearings?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, so I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we approve Charter Resolution number 170 as read into the record.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Les,
Yes.
President Rex.
Yes. Is there anything else to come before the council tonight? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Those clips,
Yes.
I got a bunch of them.